As you can see here, because we believe that the entire scripture is not cherry-picking verses, Elohim created the world. If you go down here, it refers to divine ones, superhuman beings, including God and angels, for example, Genesis 1:27. People like Philo had to use this as God's consultation with angels. We understand this as God's consultation with the Son. This means multiple divine realities.
So here we have in Exodus 7:1, God telling Moses, I have made you like God to Pharaoh. Now, the word in Hebrew for God, in terms of Moses, is Elohim. So
she never actually provides a refutation to the usage in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 to 27. Rather, she simply applies a whataboutism, which is fallacious because that's not the point of contention that's actually being discussed here. The actual point of contention is the way that Elohim is used, which is the linguistic plural of the singular term Eloah. She cites Exodus 1 as saying that the term Elohim is used to refer to Moses, and so
to ask Sig, right, or any Christian, if you're going to be consistent and say that Elohim refers to a plurality of persons, right, then you would have to say that Moses is also a plurality of persons. And I mean, obviously that is just not the case. Moses is one man.
Notice I never made the claim of persons. I merely said realities. Exodus 7 verse 1 does not refer to the usage identical to the passage that we see in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. As you should know, in linguistics, as well as in most ancient and modern language studies, many words are usually polysemic, which basically means that one word can have multiple meanings. Now, again, by all accounts of this understanding, most words would actually fall into this range, with many semanticists as well as linguists affirming this idea, as has been shown in the quote above. Now, in the case of Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 to 27, this is also true. According to most Hebrew lexicons, take Brown Driver Briggs for example, the term Elohim has multiple meanings. And in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 to 27, the usage here is different from the usage that is actually found in Exodus. As the lexicon that I cited in the clip shows, there are two different senses here. One phrase is a number specifically for divine ones or realities, and there is another usage which is in the plural intensive. The plural intensive was a linguistic device in Hebrew to demonstrate the grandeur or otherwise exaggeration of the original verb in its root. When the term Elohim is used in the plural intensive, it would take the root word Eloah and then intensify it. The result of this would be the polysemic phrase Elohim, but it would convey a different meaning. It would actually mean God-like, or amplify the figure that the term Elohim is being referred to. So in the case of Moses, it would now mean God-like, not that there are multiple persons, because the term itself is used in the plural intensive, not in the plural in number. As Lund talks about, this is to be distinguished from the plurality of number, which is actually being affirmed in Genesis 1:26. He says that in light of the above facts, the traditional categorization of the plural intensive may actually be an appropriate classification. And in order to be able to distinguish between the plural intensive as well as the plural of eminence, unlike the plural of eminence, the evidence would suggest that this intensification can only naturally occur if the manner of the surrounding speech is of an appropriate register. So that essentially means that the context of the passage, as well as the semantic field that the text itself is trying to push itself to, would determine how we are to understand the word, whether being in the plural intensive or plurality in number. As most lexicons note, the plural intensive is used in both of those Mosaic passages, but in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, that isn't the case. In fact, the translation of the verse should be rendered slightly differently. It actually says, "See, I have made you in the role of God to Pharaoh." This is because, as is lexically and theologically noted, the plural intensive form can also connote the sense of being godlike in a general sense, being able to include angels or other divine beings. Bear in mind, my claim was never that every single time the word Elohim is used, it's going to be used to refer to multiple divine realities or multiple divine persons or plurality of persons, which is the way that you phrased it, not me. I am arguing that in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, that it's only referring specifically to the plurality of number in that case, as well as other cases throughout the Hebrew Bible. So again, this claim is misguided.
Here is another instance where God tells Moses that he will be an Elohim to Aaron, his brother. Right? So we need to understand exactly what it is that Elohim means, and we would like a consistent definition in order to be able to actually understand the context of the verse that you had given the other guy prior. And as we can see here, when it comes to the definition in terms of the context for Exodus 4 and Exodus 7, it quite literally means God like one, right? So it's referring solely to Moses in this regard, as saying that he is an Elohim over the individuals that are being spoken about. So if it's the case that Elohim in the plural, as you were trying to state, can be used to refer to one singular individual, right, then we don't have to necessitate that it refers to a plurality of persons.
So this is actually an improvement by her. She's trying to look for a definition of the term. If you've already watched the past 2 to 3 minutes of the video that we are responding to, you will see that I actually did provide an entire linguistic background to how the word Elohim is used. So this isn't contrary to the meaning that I provide in Genesis 1:26, which she still hasn't responded to, but now when she gives a definition, she does so erroneously. See, she quotes Brown Driver Briggs, who gives a lexical definition of the term, but she doesn't quote them correctly. So she cites Brown Driver Briggs, but fails to give a proper account for the actual lexicon. If she actually quoted the lexicon properly, she would see that the term is being used in the plural intensive. How do we know this? By simply scrolling up from the place that she so conveniently cut out. So as you can see here, we have the term godlike one, the usage godlike one, and because we know it's polysemic, there are multiple usages. The plural intensive is the usage for this one, but actually there is another one known as the plural of number, which can refer to divine ones. It can also refer to angels, like say down here, but it specifically refers to divine ones.
As we can see here as well, concerning the Jewish understanding of the term Elohim, it's only necessitated as being a plurality in the case of persons, right, in regards to human individuals as coming.
Now, the evidence that I've tried to present to you until now has tried to be, to the best of its ability, an unbiased account of simply the way that the linguistic terms are historically, lexically, and theologically used. However, the site that she actually quotes here is simply a Jewish polemical website. In my response, I actually quoted Jewish sources as well as Christian Hebraists. The reason why is so that you can have an unbiased account of how the Hebraic terms are used and how the term Elohim in the plural of intensity as well as the plural of number is to be distinguished between. And as we can see in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 and 27, the plural of number is used, not the plural of intensive.